32M, 32F, how do we break out of the friend zone? Hello everyone. This is quite lengthy, but it tells a charming story if that interests you. I am an American graduate student living overseas. In my program, I met an amazing guy same age, same nationality, similar interests, shared humor, and parallel career paths. We both work in a professional industry by day while pursuing side endeavors in the music scene. Let's refer to him as L. We quickly became close friends. At that time, we were both in relationships, which made us very conscious of boundaries. Occasionally, I would catch him gazing at me, but since he's shy and a bit awkward at times, I would brush it off. Neither of us intended to betray our partners, so we never approached any sensitive subjects. However, the reality was that our partners did not invest in our relationship as much as we did. Both of our relationships were filled with turmoil, yet we never discussed it out of respect for one another. I found out about this later from his friends. Elle and I spent our winter break apart, and it seems we both ended up single by the time we reconvened for our final semester. Elle is charming, though he may not fit the conventional definition of attractive. I realize this impacts his self-esteem, but he possesses a unique personality that I find incredibly appealing. Conversely, I am often considered a stereotypically attractive woman. Elle describes me as a blonde bombshell. My self-esteem has always been a bit fragile, stemming from my past as a model and dancer, but Elle has consistently reassured me that I am very attractive and should never feel insecure. However, we find ourselves at a stalemate. Both of us are afraid to take the first step. Judging by everything he has shared about his previous experiences, he has never excelled at dating or finding partners. Meanwhile, I have always received attention from superficial admirers, leaving me unacquainted with the fear of rejection. Mutual friends are convinced that we have feelings for one another, yet I continue to worry that perhaps this is merely my imagination. Elle and I do not see each other as regularly these days due to our commitments, but when we do, it is always filled with excitement. He expresses that he misses me, mentions that things do not feel the same without me, and often casually says, "I love you," in a friendly manner. Apparently, he frequently tells others that he misses me. He is a warm and affectionate person. Recently, he has become increasingly physically affectionate. Our entire friend group expresses affection, exchanging numerous "I love yous" and hugs. However, Elle is the only male in this dynamic. These days, his hugs are different from those he gives to the other girls. He holds me tightly with both arms, sometimes nuzzles my hair, and rests his cheek against mine. During a typical night out, I can expect him to hug me at least 7 times. Occasionally, he will put his arm around me, our legs touch when we sit side by side. He briefly rests his hand on my thigh, and we often engage in playful touches on each other's arms while conversing. At times, he will snap a picture of just the two of us together, but he never shares it with me or posts it. A mutual friend noticed this and finally inquired about the situation, asking if I minded the fact that Elle cannot keep his hands off of you. She assumed that I was uninterested in him due to his appearance, but I reassured her that I am very attracted to him. I treasure our friendship dearly, so I am reluctant to make any missteps that could jeopardize our connection. I am genuinely frightened of making him uncomfortable. This week, when we last spent time together, the signs seemed all too clear. There was ample affection. He presented me with a special gift that the girls helped him select for me over the holidays, and he remarked that I was certain to break some hearts with the dress I wore. However, he mentioned to the other girls that his ex is trying to regain his attention since he appears happier and feels he has limited options. He begrudgingly entertains the idea, but does not intend to rekindle their relationship. His ex lives in another country, so there is no concern about her showing up here. Once we arrived at the venue, he told the promoters that I was his manager, all while winking at me with his arm around my shoulders. At one point, the bouncers asked who I was, and I impulsively identified myself as Eltik's girlfriend, enabling me to enter ahead of the official opening and avoid the cover charge. That night, he performed as a DJ for a local club. He allows me to store my belongings at the DJ booth, and I joyfully danced for his set next to the decks. I used to do this for other artists in the past. He appeared rather anxious, and frankly, it was not his strongest performance. Eventually, all our friends departed. Noticing his sadness, I approached him, gave him a brief kiss on the cheek, and returned to dancing. He blushed, smiled, and then improved his performance. From that point onwards, he played exceptionally well until the end. I considered this a significant moment, yet aside from him encouraging me and dancing a bit with me, nothing more transpired. I prepared to leave before him, and he requested that I text him to confirm I arrived home safely. Typically, he walks me home, but he needed to discuss business with the promoters. That evening, he acknowledged that his set was not great, but he managed to turn it around thanks to my support and dancing, which helped him regain his rhythm. The following day, I expressed my gratitude and reassured him that the next set would be even better. He invited me back to dance for the next performance. Since then, there has been no follow-up. It has been 3 days. I feel quite embarrassed about kissing him on the cheek and wonder if it made him uncomfortable. Now, it feels painfully clear that we are attracted to each other. Many people already presume we are a couple, yet I still harbor some doubt, fearing that he regards me merely as a sister. Regarding sexual attraction, a rather indiscreet mutual friend once asked him if he would sleep with me, and he responded with an enthusiastic yes. However, that is significantly different from actually dating. Concerning my personality, he has been very candid about his ideal woman possessing the same vibrant and lively spirit I exhibit. He frequently tells me that no one understands him like I do, that I make him laugh, that he is thankful to have met me, and that I am entirely unique and unforgettable. I reciprocate those sentiments, but only when I am tipsy enough to overcome my anxiety. We used to communicate more frequently, but now that we are both single, our interactions mainly occur within our group chat. I can count on us engaging in that chat every couple of days, but we have not spent time alone together since our single status began. How do we move past this? Should I simply accept the situation? At times, I may appear disinterested, but it is merely my nerves acting up. I have no shortage of other admirers pursuing me quite aggressively, yet none resonate with my heartstrings quite like this sweet and nerdy DJ. If you are going to suggest I make the first move, how on earth is that accomplished? I do not want to make him uncomfortable and jeopardize the wonderful bond we share. I am also, understandably, fearful of being rejected. To summarize, it appears evident that we have feelings for each other, yet we remain trapped in the friend zone. Or perhaps I am simply overthinking things, and he truly considers me like a sister. In matters of attraction, if a man truly desires something, he will act correct. Story 2. I discovered my boyfriend's ex accused him of sending explicit pics to others. Doubts arise about his honesty and responsibility as a father. I wanted to begin by mentioning that this is my first post, and I wasn't certain who else to confide in since most individuals in my life are unaware of this situation. Please brace yourself for a detailed narrative. My boyfriend, 21 years old, and I, 20 years old, have been in a relationship for approximately 2 years. Everything has been wonderful. I experienced some notoriously unhealthy relationships during my early teenage years, so this has been a refreshing change. Prior to our relationship, my boyfriend, whom I will refer to as Jay, made it clear that he and his ex-girlfriend in her 20s, whom I'll call C, were expecting a child. Although they had separated before learning about the pregnancy, C decided to keep the child, and Jay was very supportive of her decision. Jay and I met around 7 months after their breakup, and C was still pregnant when our relationship began. They initially parted ways because C cheated on Jay multiple times throughout their relationship, essentially throughout its entirety. Jay prefers not to discuss this matter frequently, and I understand why. However, the information he has shared about their relationship goes well beyond just infidelity. C has physically assaulted him on several occasions, even breaking his glasses, which I can confirm since he still hasn't been able to get replacements, and currently holds them together with super glue and tape. One particular incident he recounted was when she yelled at him in the street, punched him, and broke his 00G acrylic taper, resulting in a cut and a scar. She would return home after being with another man and snuggle up to Jay while he lay there aware of what she had just done. Jay is a kind person, and I've often wondered why he stayed with her for so long. He attempted to salvage what remained of their relationship, but once he recognized that nothing was improving, he chose to end it. C ultimately began a relationship with one of the men with whom she had cheated. During her pregnancy, Jay would occasionally accompany C to her doctor's appointments and wait for her to return home. This never troubled me because I trust Jay, and I know he wanted to ensure that his son was healthy and that there would be no complications. After one such appointment, Jay's phone lit up with a notification while they were in the car. C, unaware of our relationship, saw a message from me under the contact name B, complete with a heart, and noticed Jay's wallpaper was a picture of me. She confronted him about it, to which he somewhat brushed off by saying something like, "I have my life, you have yours, so there's no need to worry about me," which she obviously did not appreciate. She proceeded to remind him that he is the father of her child, that she wanted to ensure he was doing well, and that she wishes the best for him, among other things. I don't recall every detail of their exchange. This was around the period when she tried to reconcile with Jay. They had a pattern of breaking up and getting back together repeatedly, so I presume she hoped for that to happen again. Jay rejected her advances, and she moved on. Fast forward to early July, C gave birth and did not inform Jay until a week or two later. Naturally, this being his first child, even though he was not immediately informed of the birth, did not diminish his happiness. However, that joy quickly turned into sadness when C told him that his name was not on the birth certificate her new boyfriend's name was instead. Legally, my boyfriend is not recognized as the biological father. At first, Jay questioned whether the baby was truly his, but his family quickly concluded that he clearly resembled Jay, indicating that he is indeed his son. C did not facilitate Jay's opportunity to see the child, and during the 2 occasions he did manage to visit, he was permitted to hold him for just a few minutes. Jay only saw his son once more when the child was several months shy of his first birthday. Apparently, C felt that she had enough male energy in her life, rejecting any financial support, a crib, or even Jay's presence. This devastated him. He never wanted to be an absent father, yet that was essentially what he was forced into. He could not see his son unless C decided to allow it. Though he attempted to persuade her, she often blocked him, or if he pursued legal action, which we could not afford. Now, C sends Jay photographs and updates about their son, berates him via text, blocks him, unblocks him, apologizes, and then repeats the cycle. This has been her pattern since their son was born. A few days ago, while I was at work, she called Jay unexpectedly and accused him of not caring about her or their child. Apparently, some mutual acquaintances informed her that Jay was speaking poorly of her and that they had spotted him in town with a new girlfriend, me. I am unsure of everything that was said during this phone call, but that is the gist of it, and Jay seemed pleased about the prospect of seeing his son again since they arranged a meeting at the park. Long story short, that meeting was scheduled for yesterday and ultimately did not occur. Jay did not bring it up again, merely stating that it fell through as it has on previous occasions. Later that night, while he was asleep, I decided to look through his phone, having noticed him angrily typing earlier that day without mentioning it. Though I typically do not invade his privacy, I felt compelled to investigate. I examined their messages starting from the day she had called, and everything seemed acceptable. However, around the time I noticed him texting, he had asked when he would be able to see them, and the conversation turned negative. C essentially brought up a friend who told her that Jay was disparaging her to others, expressing regret about calling him at all. She claimed that everyone in her life disapproved of her efforts to keep him involved and give him multiple chances. Throughout the exchange, Jay continuously apologized, striving not to provoke her further, insisting he does not speak negatively about her to anyone. Then she accused him of sending explicit photographs to married men, which he dismissed. I believe he mentioned something about me having a miscarriage on the call, because she referenced that as well, questioning why he would try to replace their child with another baby, and calling it ghetto for him to have relations with other women and father additional children while neglecting responsibilities for the one he already has. To clarify, I did not have a miscarriage, but I did undergo a medical abortion a few months ago, and I cannot understand why he would bring that topic up in the first place. The conversation concluded with him stating that he would respect her wishes, whether that meant remaining out of their lives or otherwise. I'm quite uncertain about what to make of all this. I am lacking context, and her comment about feeling sorry for me because he may not be truthful only fueled my anxiety with numerous theories. Has he been dishonest with me? I regret to admit that I have reviewed their messages before, and they align with some things he has told me. Should I confront him about this? What was the reference regarding explicit photographs? He has informed me that she would attempt to demean him by calling him overweight, a pig, and foolish. So could this just be another tactic? My greatest hope is that he is not deliberately evading his responsibilities as a father, as I genuinely do not know what I would do if I found out everything has been a fabrication. I'm eager to hear everyone's opinions on this. Am I overreacting? Story 3. Aita for badly judging a chauvinistic, brain-damaged guy who gave up his holiday visitation with his kid. TLDR. I never agreed with the ungrateful, entitled, and disrespectful manner in which this individual treated my friend during their long-distance relationship. After he blamed her for his job loss and claimed he could not afford holiday gifts for his son because of it, she purchased gifts for his child to be from dad. She even paid extra for express shipping to ensure they arrived on time, only for him to later cancel his visitation with his son and declare he would not see the child until late January. We later learned he lied and actually had another woman visit during Christmas. Some people argued it is ableist to judge him at all due to a serious car accident he experienced 6 years ago. So, am I an abusive ableist antagonist for feeling as I do? My friend had been in a long-distance relationship with this man for several years. She lived in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., while he resided in Knoxville, Tennessee. They were both divorced and did not have children together. She has known him for slightly longer than she has known me, which I believe contributes to her ongoing difficulty in moving on from him. They had been fair-weather friends at various points before finally beginning to date. I haven't been particularly fond of him, viewing him as outspoken, arrogant, and self-centered. Additionally, he had a troubled past during his teenage years. My friend, however, had always been infatuated with him. I couldn't grasp his appeal, but that was her choice. In the past year, he became increasingly intolerable, openly insulting her intelligence and calling her derogatory names, knowing she has autism and anxiety. He also directed his insults toward me simply because I disagreed with his political views and his treatment of her. This was all after she had done so much for him, including paying for some of his home repairs. For instance, he lost his job, and it is debatable how much of that job loss was genuinely not his fault. He claimed discrimination from his bosses due to a traumatic brain injury sustained in the car accident 6 years ago, despite having made a reasonably good recovery. He accused his employers of seeking any reason to terminate him because they were displeased that he could no longer perform the work of 3 people for their low wages, as he had been able to prior to the accident. However, he was also noted for using his personal phone excessively while at work. He appeared to use his past traumatic brain injury to justify treating my friend like an unpaid secretary and financial provider, expecting her to cover many of his expenses, including travel to visit her after losing his job. In general, he seems unable to take responsibility for his actions. These characteristics were evident long before his traumatic brain injury, as was the way he seemed to show her even less respect than he showed other women in the past. The disrespect with which he treated my friend escalated significantly in the last year following his job loss. From an outsider's viewpoint, it didn't appear that he was making genuine efforts to find a new job or seek social services designed to assist individuals with disabilities in securing employment. My friend even filed for unemployment benefits and created a state-mandated job search profile for him. Additionally, he received financial support from his mother, yet he behaved in a hostile and controlling manner. While staying with my friend, he expressed ingratitude, demanding to know what was for dinner, and later stating, "There's no food here," just a day or so after she had gone grocery shopping. Rewind a few months. My friend assisted him during Christmas by purchasing several gifts for his son after he lamented that he was too broke to buy any gifts for anyone. He chose the gifts, and she bought them, under the impression that he would present them as if they were from him. I witnessed her placing the online orders and paying for express shipping before shopping for others. Rather than expressing gratitude, he announced he was canceling Christmas with his son. His custody arrangement dictated that he only had his son every other year for holidays, meaning he had already missed the previous Thanksgiving and Christmas. He professed to feel guilty about being broke, even though he had already indicated to my friend what gifts to buy for his son. Having come from a troubled divorce myself, I found this behavior troubling. Christmas should be about family togetherness, while gifts are secondary. Growing up, I wished my father had made greater efforts to see us during the holidays. I conveyed my feelings to my friend, and our mutual friend who fortunately comes from a stable family background and has never experienced divorce agreed. We suggested to her that he was being dishonest and making excuses for why he would not be seeing his son, or acknowledging that his son had not yet received the gifts from my friend. He was already giving up a few custody weekends after Christmas, during which his son would be going on vacation with his mother and stepfamily. Christmas represented the only opportunity for him to see his son for an extended time. I told my friend that his behavior was selfish, ungrateful, and indicative of a lack of accountability. My friend, who tends to be too concerned with others' opinions and frequently seeks validation from them, shared all of this on Reddit and received a harsh backlash. People accused her of being ableist, while others suggested she was trauma-bonded to him. They praised him for being a commendable father by sacrificing time with his son, labeling it a selfless act on his part. A month later, he continued to evade her inquiries regarding whether his son had received the Christmas gifts or how the son felt about them. His treatment of her grew increasingly cruel and verbally abusive. He began bombarding her with multiple cash transfer requests through Cash App, ranging from $300 to $600 at a time. Our mutual friend recommended that she check with the son's mother to inquire whether the boy had received his gifts, as they were on amicable terms. She contacted the mother and learned that the son had wanted to spend Christmas with his dad. It turned out he had crafted a gift for him in shop class, yet the man had opted to forego Christmas, claiming illness. It was also revealed that he was not, in fact, without food and gifts, as his mother had sent him grocery gift cards and various presents for her grandson. I remain puzzled as to why he requested my friend to buy gifts for his son. Additionally, it was uncovered that when his son arrived unannounced on Christmas Eve, he had a key to say hello and drop off his gift. He found his father in a compromising situation with another woman, indicating he was hardly unwell. It seems to me that the genuine reason he canceled Christmas was likely to spend time with a woman he had been pursuing recently. He had food and presents available, as well as reasonable health, but chose to play the victim card to justify why his son was not present. I even question whether he requested the gifts to sell them. Unsurprisingly, my friend is no longer in a relationship with him. Following their explosive breakup, he has called numerous times to hurl insults, threatened her with legal action, and even made threats of financial extortion, among other things. So am I wrong to judge him and his parenting, as well as the way he treats women, despite his traumatic brain injury? Story 4. Need to know if my girlfriend, 19, cheated on me, M20. A little backstory to my relationship. I have been with this girl for 2 years now, and I love her wholeheartedly. However, over the past year, we have been fighting and arguing almost weekly. We have tried everything from improving our communication to therapy, striving to be less angry about each other's actions and more, but I am struggling particularly hard to pretend nothing happened during one specific incident last summer. What transpired was that we faced a lot of tension over the summer, leading to frequent fights. Both of us had planned to go on vacations separately with our friends or friend groups, and then once together, just the two of us. She was the first to leave, heading out with a female friend from college. Initially, everything seemed fine, but we ended up fighting and breaking up the day after she arrived while I was still at home. Here is where things become intriguing. During that single day she was there, and we were still communicating, she attended 2 parties or clubs. I had previously expressed my discontent with her frequent visits to such venues, as she might have gone once a month or every month and a half. I only made those comments to set boundaries, but she seemed unconcerned and even mentioned her intention to party daily multiple times before our breakup occurred on the first day. The fight that led to our breakup was trivial, so I won't delve into it since it holds no significance regarding either her actions or mine. During the breakup, everything felt normal until I was nearing my breaking point and certainly did not expect to be the first to reach out. After returning home 7 days later and a few days of no contact, I messaged her, or perhaps called her, so we could discuss our breakup properly rather than when she was abroad. We met up and talked, and naturally, I ended up wanting to reconcile, but this time she was hesitant and suggested we stay broken up for another month or so for her to think about everything. I respected her decision and didn't push for anything, but as we spent more time together, the spark slowly returned. We ended up discussing her vacation, including her experiences with partying and the various guys who hit on her while she was there. She mentioned a few guys she turned down, but there was one guy she told me she befriended. He was also from our country, on vacation, and lived directly below her and her friend's apartment. Although she did not speak much about him, I began to have my doubts. The next time we were together, we talked more about the guys who approached her, and I respectfully asked if she could show me the messages with this guy. By the way, we do not typically go through each other's phones or ask to see messages. When I made that request, she looked nervous, and my heart sank. She started to smile shyly, claiming she didn't want to show me. When I pressed further, she insisted it was a bad idea and that I would get upset. At first, the messages seemed normal and friendly, but they quickly took a turn for the worse. One message detailed an incident at a club where she and her friend were being flirted with by a guy who made them uncomfortable. She even called that guy to come over, stating that she needed him there, not both of them. That was the precise moment my stomach began to churn. Despite my effort to remain calm, I felt my hands start to shake as I held her phone. She noticed and warned me not to proceed, but I did anyway. They met every day, visited each other's apartments, though according to her, her friend was always present, and went to clubs together. However, it wasn't with his entire friend group, only him, her, and her friend. The part that devastated me was that they began sending each other heart emojis after nearly every third message, as well as good morning and good night texts. The only thing absent from those messages was an "I love you," which truly summed up the nature of their correspondence. She had known him for 3 days. I shed a tear or two and confronted her. We had only been broken up for 3 days at that point when she started texting him hearts while being in another country. I expressed my hurt, noting that in the last 30 arguments, I had always been the one wanting to resolve our issues and not give up. But over something trivial, she had moved on and acted in this way. I felt betrayed that she hadn't even attempted to fix things with me or reach out, yet she was already sending good morning and good night texts to someone else. Even though we were separated at the time, I felt incredibly cheated. We had broken up similarly a few times before, both of us understanding it was trivial and that we would likely reconcile, but this time it felt different. She kept sending hearts to him, engaging in flirting, and on 2 occasions, she made plans to meet him when she returned home. Those messages continued until the morning I called her to talk, and her last text to him came after we had gotten back together. In it, she mentioned that she was back with me and could no longer communicate with him. If I recall correctly, she even apologized for not being able to continue talking to him. I completely broke down, nearly crying at the thought that someone I love so deeply, who claimed to love me above all else, could do something like this. It's difficult to explain. She is not someone I would typically associate with infidelity. She doesn't party often, has decent friends, excels academically, and is generally not promiscuous. Therefore, this experience hit me particularly hard. She began to cry and insisted that nothing happened, claiming they hadn't even kissed but merely hung out. She repeatedly told me she planned to stop communicating with him gradually, reducing their conversation step by step until they stopped talking altogether. But that reasoning seemed flawed when she was the one flirting with him and arranging plans to meet back home. She had every opportunity to avoid flirting or to change the topic of conversation, but instead took every chance to engage in those behaviors. It would have made sense if she had turned him down after each advance and thus minimized their discussions, but instead, she prolonged the conversations and initiated contact on numerous occasions, asking about his day, what he was doing, and who was winning the match he mentioned he was watching. One other point troubled me. Other guys had hit on her before, and I had seen how she interacted with them. She typically remained cold towards their advances and often made subtle jokes at their expense until they lost interest. She admitted she did this because she felt bad and anxious, preferring that they lose interest on their own. However, with this guy, it was the opposite. She was careful about how she interacted and flirted back. She even got upset once, claiming, "So what if we did kiss? I chose you in the end." She fails to comprehend that that is not the fundamental issue here. I told her I wanted to believe her, but that trust would never return to the same level as before. As we are currently going through a rough period, I have been reflecting on this situation and cannot shake the feeling that we have grown apart, and things will never return to a state of comfort. Yet, somehow, we are still working to stay together. I realize this is a lengthy narrative, but I needed to express my feelings. I would appreciate hearing your opinions on this situation and whether you believe she is being dishonest or truthful. I apologize if my spelling is inconsistent in some places. English is not my first language.